Hey, this is Gina Grad.
Hi, this is Teresa Strasser.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Errico.
Hey there. This is Casey Cavalier.
I'm Rocky Rose.
And you are listening to The Jay Franzi Show.
Lucky you.
Welcome to The Jay Franzi Show. A behind-the-curtain look at the entertainment industry with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard. Now, here's your host, Jay Franzi and Tiffany Mason.
And we are coming at you live. I am Jay Franzi, and with me tonight, the Sandy to my Danny, my beautiful co-host, Miss Tiffany Mason.
Wow, I'll take that compliment.
There you go. If you are new to the show, this is your source for the latest news, reviews, and interviews. And if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jfranzi.com. All right, my friend, tonight we have a very special guest with us. I said it once, I will say it again. We have a very special guest. We have an entertainment attorney and an author, a two-in-one, folks. Hailing from the great state of Tennessee, we have John Mason. John, sir, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jay, and hi, Tiffany.
Hello.
Well, let's just jump right in. With the name of your book being Crazy Lucky, and your career being as successful as it is, can you tell us how much of your career has been based on luck versus preparation?
I'd have to say, Jay and Tiffany, about 50-50. You know, in the beginning of the book, I talk about my family background and my grandfather being an indentured seaman from Canada. My dad's a butcher. And having been born when I was in 1946 in Los Angeles was pretty lucky. I had nothing to do with that. Wanting to get away from the family business of being a butcher was an intent, but figuring out how I wanted to do this and what I wanted to do did take the other half, or maybe 80%, getting ready, going to college, going to law school, getting out, being lucky to get a job, to have met Creedence Clearwater Revival when I was up at UC Berkeley. They lived in Oakland, and then having Olivia Newton-John and Cat Stevens walk in the office. A lot of that's lucky, but if I didn't have the law degree and I didn't have the experience in music, maybe that wouldn't have happened. So I'm going to stick with my 50-50. We're going to do roulette tonight.
I like it. Let's go with red. All right. So 50-50, preparation versus luck. And you just dropped a couple names there that were just walking through the door. Let's start with my heart's favorite. Let's talk about Olivia Newton-John. Can you tell us how that came about?
My favorite also. Whenever I talk about Olivia, I have to say ahead of time, I get emotional. We worked together and we're as close as brother sister for 50 years, and it meant a lot to me. Meeting Olivia back in 1973 was such a treat, because we all of us had the ideal person, artist, talented, kind, generous, beautiful, great singer, and I'd had some good success in the first couple of years of my career, and then a friend called me and said that Olivia Newton-John had moved to Los Angeles and needed an attorney, and would I be interested? Well, yeah, I was interested, but I still have a policy to this day that I need to meet artists before I can work with them. It has to be a mutual bond between us. So we established that I would go to New York and meet Olivia backstage at the Metropolitan Opera. And here I am, 25-year-old LA guy, and probably been to New York once in my life, but legendary. Olivia backstage at the Metropolitan Opera, and we had a great time just being there. Olivia had been prepped that I was coming, but she was so nervous before the show. When I got to the dressing room, she actually was retching into the trash can. So I said, okay, Olivia, I'll see you after the show. And she just did a great show, and we agreed to meet at her home in Malibu, where I arrived 2 weeks later to her waiting out by the pool in her bikini with an iced tea. So it's a great story. It's a great time. We did a lot.
You mentioned being 25 years old when you were sent out to meet with Olivia. That's extremely young. How old was she compared to you at that time?
Olivia Olivia was 4 years younger than me. So right now, when I'm 80 this year, I'm still 79. Olivia would have been 76, 75. So she was 20. I think when we met, I was 25 and she was 22.
Wow. All right. So that dynamic, I mean, you guys are both extremely young, early in your careers.
Yeah.
Did that play into your relationship at all?
I don't think so. In one sense, neither one of us really knew what we were doing. We trusted and believed in each other. And I had some good experience from the work that I had done. But in that time, I was far more in movies than in television. But as a lawyer, but as a professional, I had started in music and I knew a lot about music. But I will never forget meeting Olivia, those early times, and having a bond that lasted our whole lives together. And that, I think, had a lot more to do with our chemistry than our ages.
Now, did she end up introducing new clients to you?
Actually, I met a lot of people through Olivia. For example, Karen Carpenter, who wasn't a client of mine, and John Denver, who wasn't. Met a lot of people, but Olivia was a private non-business person, and she introduced me to a lot of talent at events, but never as, this is my lawyer, you should hire him.
You said you had a brother-sister bond. What is the funniest thing that you can remember the two of you doing together, like a fond memory?
Going to parties at her house was a lot of fun. The most fun day, I'm sure, for both of us was the shoot of You're the One That I Want at the high school, where she and John were in that wheel, and she came out with a tight black leather outfit and smoking a cigarette, and it was pretty funny to her, funny to us. And she knew a lot more than the rest of us that were there, including the cast. I would say all the way up till about 5 years ago, she was made a, what was it called, a dame of the Australian country, and she had a party at her house, and the ambassador from Australia came, and it was just fun. She was funny. She gave a funny speech, and then had a lunch for 16 of us, telling jokes, cracking us up. And by that time, she knew more than most of us that her time was limited. So always fun with Olivia.
Yeah.
For the tragedies that happened to her, I can't name times that were sadder than just knowing she wasn't well.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
You said that when you work with people, you have to meet with them first. So what is something that they say or do that you're like, oh, we're working together? What is a green flag for you?
That's the chemistry. It would be easy for me to say, for a lawyer to say, oh my gosh, I'm going to represent Frank Sinatra or
Sure.
some big name. I've never felt that. I've felt we're in the business, my clients and I, of entertaining people and being paid for it. So I'm on the getting paid for it side, and they're on the entertaining side. But as you know from reading the book, all the stories of me with Quincy Jones or Donna Summer or Brian Wilson or Michael Jackson are very personal. So that's been I wouldn't just say my calling card, that's been my mission in my career, to have that special one-on-one relationship with the artist.
We always talk about luck, and you talk about all these artists you've had the opportunity to work with. Has an unlucky moment ever helped advance your career?
That is a crazy question, Jay.
Stumped him.
Yeah, because my inclination is to say no. Of things that weren't comfortable that I've talked about and that I feel, being fired by Quincy Jones wasn't great, but it certainly didn't help my career. Having worked with Quincy and been introduced by Quincy to including Michael Jackson, great artists, was a big help in my career. And so being fired by Quincy wasn't a detriment. It was okay. It wasn't fun. I can say that. It was a very emotional experience, but we stayed friends until he passed away last year.
Why'd that relationship, the working relationship, come to an end?
Well, I'm going to give you an anecdote. A guy whose father was Billy Eckstine, who was also my client and very, very close with Quincy, Ed Eckstein was a brilliant young talent. He still is. He ran record companies. But the day after Quincy and I parted ways, Ed said to me, don't take it personally, John. Quincy's a chameleon. Q is a chameleon. He changed people, moods, music. And Quincy has a lot of kids from different mothers, people that he really loved. He loved his wives and loved his kids, but he was a chameleon.
He was a man of variety.
Totally.
To keep things fresh.
That's what I try to tell my wife. Keep things fresh, babe.
Well, speaking of just, things changing, and what is the wildest contract clause that you've ever seen?
A client asked me to get in the contract. I wouldn't even repeat what it was, but it was basically, you can never screw Tiffany Mason. That's put in the contract. I think the most unusual one was when I got a helicopter for Kenny Rogers as part of his record deal. And that never had that happen before or since. We did a Ma and Pa kettle routine on Kenny and Marianne Rogers Ranch, where we got RCA Records to rent a helicopter with the plexiglass in the front. And we had preset that Kenny and Marianne would be standing out on this big pasture with a big pond, waving with overalls. And it was crazy. But we ended up getting a helicopter as part of the deal because they could see how useful it was for Kenny to fly to his ranch.
That's insane. So how long did you work with Kenny?
Long time. I'd say I started with Kenny right after he left the first edition. It was Kenny Rogers' first edition. So there was Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town. Went on through all the Coward of the County and The Gambler and Lady. And it feels like forever, but it wasn't forever. It was just a beautiful long run that started with that funny situation of not wanting to be in folk music and be in a band and creating the character that Kenny. It's the same we did with the RCA meeting I was telling you about. Kenny was a great actor, and we played a lot of parts together.
Quick tangents. I mean, back in that day, a gentleman named Bob Bullock was Kenny Rogers' engineer. Did you happen to have a chance to meet Bob?
Met him only in the studio. I went to a number of Kenny's sessions. Larry Butler was producing out in L.A. before Lionel Richie, and I met Bob probably 3 or 4 times in the studio. But you know how that goes. You're kind of in there feeling like you're interrupting the flow of what the music is. So it was just, hello, I'm here. But Kenny and I had meetings at recording sessions and concerts constantly. When he wasn't working, he would have rather and was always interested in his pastimes, buying real estate, driving his cars. So most of our meetings were at shows or in studios.
What kind of cars did he like?
Porsches.
Porsche.
I bought one from him.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I told him, Kenny, if you ever sell that car, I'd love to buy it. And he actually called me one day and said, John, if you're serious, I'm selling that car.
Do you still have it?
How cool.
I don't.
Oh, what happened?
Hey, I'm a car guy, man. I'm from L.A. Cars come and go.
Variety. John's a man of variety as well.
Cars come and go, but Kenny's doesn't come and go.
It's true.
You know what? We had these giant storms in Nashville. I drive a Land Rover Defender. That's my idea of what I need to be driving now.
That's my wife's car of choice.
Oh, is it great? Yeah. The best.
All right. So was there ever a moment in your career, like did an artist or a project come your way that you didn't want to take and then ended up taking and having it be successful?
I'm laughing because I was hoping the end of that would be an artist that I wanted to take that came and ended up I hated them.
Well, either way.
Okay, you
We're
can answer that
flexible.
question.
Give us one of each.
We're willing to follow you, John.
we had a lot of clients in the 70s and 80s and 90s that I would call one-hit wonders, that I was so proud of them and their music and what they did. I felt blessed to be their lawyer. I haven't talked about those because the book is really about people with whom I had what I'll call an intimate, as in we talked 3-4 times a week, calling about personal things both ways, of people that changed my life that way. It's just, yes, everybody. We've talked about Olivia for sure. In my 55-year career, my 50 years with Olivia is the greatest of the greatest. But Donna Summer came to me when she came back from Germany, and I'm stunned to even think about and talk about what all happened from Love to Love You Baby to On the Radio, and
which is one of my favorite songs.
it is mine. Yeah, it's certainly mine. But while we're talking about country music, you two, Reba, right? 30 years together, was somebody that the story in the book is real. I met Reba, I'm sorry, when she was just getting set up with Narvel. She'd just gotten divorced from Charlie Battles, and we had that magic meeting that I was talking about, Narvel and Reba and I. Narvel was her steel guitar player, and he was becoming her manager, and they were getting engaged. And within, I don't know, I think before I walked out of that was in the studio also, before I walked out, they said, we can't wait to work with you, we want to do everything. And then 2 weeks later, Narvel had to call me and say that the president of the label said, we have to hire his lawyer. And they switched to that lawyer. And that was really sad. I really felt comfortable with them. But just 1 year later, the plane crashed with the crew and the band on it. And I called Reba and I called Narvel separately and just said, oh my gosh, this is so devastating. I'm so sad. Is there anything I can do? And both of them called me the next day and said, you know what? Our lawyer didn't call us. We want you back. And so that started the 30 years that we worked together. And if you're wondering on the end of that, I mean, I have to say, I went through the divorce of Narvel and Reba and all that happened, and ended up that Reba wanted an all-female entourage, and she found it, and she is it. And I'm still mesmerized that she runs everything and does it better than anybody. Just Reba and Dolly Parton are on that level of business talent, thinking of things to do, making people happy, and being real and genuine in the process.
Again, you mentioned Reba, you mentioned Dolly. Those are two of our favorites on the show. We talk about them a lot as being the pinnacle of what country musicians should be. Right. You mentioned having that relationship with Olivia at the start. Is that the same type of relationship you had with Reba and Dolly?
Well, not. I will tell you why in a personal context. Reba, in the 30 years I worked with her, was married to or managed and completely in the orbit of Narvel. So in Reba's life, even though I saw her, we were in the same suite of offices all the time. My dealings were primarily with Narvel, and Reba would come every time we were finishing a deal. She'd come without Narvel to ask me about the deal. So the personal side of it was a little different. In our 50 years, Olivia was married twice, had that crazy fiance guy that fell off a boat and all of that. Our relationship, when I said brother, sister, me and Olivia, was direct. There wasn't a manager connection in there, even though there were a few managers, not mentioning names, but...
Well, while we're talking about that, let me ask you a question about that. What are the relationships with the managers that you have? There's got to be an odd dynamic between a manager and an attorney throughout that relationship.
It's really difficult. I would prefer, and I've made a lifetime commitment to be directly involved with the artist. The manager is in effect the captain of the ship, if you would, and kind of running the day to day. But the artist is the ship. The artist is the whole business. If I can speak directly with the artist, and even as with Reba, and I was close with Reba and Narvel, it's so much easier for me to do my job because I know what the artist wants. I know what the artist needs. I know how I call it guiding people through a scary forest in the dark of night, because that's what I do best, is guide people through the business, the career, from records, movies, TV. Now we're talking about internet and streaming and all of that. If I were to put it in words, I think the managers in general, and I have clients with and without managers, are far more interested in commissions and short-term thinking, where my thinking is far more on the 5-10 year plan. Even with Cheap Trick, which is a client, they're in their 50th year right now.
Still amazing.
And all I want to talk about is what we're doing over the next 5 years, not what we did, not how can we have one more concert that they make a lot of money. And that's a difficult place for lawyers and managers to be. And I think managers are far more afraid of being fired, because if things go wrong, they get the blame. And lawyers generally, we don't get the blame.
Well, attorneys often cross that path and actually manage artists. Have you ever been tempted to do that?
I did have to act as Olivia's manager for a year because the old manager didn't work and we couldn't find somebody to do it. I hated that job. As much as I love Olivia, I don't like to be on call, and I don't like that responsibility. And as I said, if anything goes wrong, it's the manager's fault. It's never the artist's fault. Certainly not my fault. So no, I've never, ever wanted to be a manager for anybody.
John, you said that you have a lot of really good relationships with the artists that you've worked with, and some of them have had managers. Do you find that they come to you and they say, like, is my manager doing the right thing? Or has there been a situation where you see a manager not doing the right thing and you kind of have to maybe either have a delicate conversation or point the artist, like, did you check this? What have those situations been like?
Those are really, really hard, because it seems inevitable that one of us is going to get fired if I do that. And I have done that a number of times, including with the ex-Olivia managers, some of which I talk about in the book. But I have a situation right now with a major artist where I just thought the manager did something unethical. We put it that way, and I pointed it out to the client, and it's happening as we speak. So we'll see how it turns out. I don't expect to get fired, but I'm okay. I've been fired before.
Right.
Can you share a story without sharing the names? Can you share a story of an example?
Well, it's been more, and I'm generalizing, but this is a lot, that the manager got the artist into a deal where the manager's talking to, I call everybody who the record companies, production companies, they're all exploiters of talent. So we have talent, which is my business. That's all I've done my whole career, is represent talent. And there are people who make their money from exploiting talent. So if a manager or an agent is trying to put together a deal with an exploiter of talent that I feel is about the commission or is not in the artist's best interest, and this happened recently with a tour merchandise agreement, I will say so. But I have an obligation to my clients. I'm their lawyer, and nothing will dissuade me from being honest about what I think is best and being honest when I think that what's being done is wrong. And, it sorts itself out. I think I've won far more than I've lost.
One more thing, just if we take a quick step back, you mentioned you like to look 5 years out to what the artists are doing, like Cheap Trick. You want to look at what can be done 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Is there ever a point where you pause that way of thinking to double down on something that's going on right now?
I'm going to give you another example, because we're talking about country music. Sawyer Brown, Mark Miller, my client for 40 years. We're in that same boat because Mark has celebrated Sawyer Brown 40th year, new album. I speak to Mark at least 4 or 5 times a week. It's all about where we're going, what's happening in 2 years and 4 years and 5 years. And I'm going to contradict what I said to you, Tiffany, which is I don't do any new artists. Mark and I have been working on an artist, 19-year-old female artist, who I think is on a par with everybody we've talked about, as great as there's ever been. And what we've built around her is a 8-year plan, and literally. That's just the way I like to think about it. And, now I think, gee, will I be here at the end of that plan? I'm planning on it, and I'm on it every day that way. And if you went back in time, like with Frankie Valli Four Seasons, Jersey Boys, that was thinking about not just hits from the 60s. That was,
Sure.
How do we perpetuate this? And here's Frankie doing 30 shows live this year at 92.
Jeepers.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up a question that I had, is that your career has spanned over multiple decades. What do you think are some of the more monumental or bigger changes in the contracts? What are the things that have really tripped up some of the contracts, and how have you pivoted or adjusted to those things?
Well, first, exploiters of talent are always looking for a new way to take advantage of artists. So in the evolution of the music business, the television business, the film business, artists were generally treated as employees, and they were paid as employees, and the product was owned by the exploiter. That has changed. And when I see contracts that go back, the Rascals, I'll give you just one more example. I go back to 1965 contract over here. There's the 10% breakage, because at that point vinyl records could break, and there's a packaging deduction when we don't even have packaging anymore. So evolving in the technical side of the business, we'd see contracts that 60s, for example, they didn't contemplate 8 tracks or CDs or compact discs, let alone the internet and streaming. So in contemporary agreements, I'm able to fix a lot of that, but I have to go back and fix the 60s stuff too, because it's just there and we didn't have all this. I had a situation today, it happened to be the Four Seasons, Bob Gaudio, where he found an artist putting up music on Spotify and Apple under the name The Four Seasons. That's AI stuff, and it's not even Four Seasons songs, but he claims, the artist, who's in Kosovo, calls himself crazy something, Benzo Radio. People said, well, is it easier to track these things? It's really hard to track it down because people can put anything up on the internet. And I was trying to explain that to my client today. It's not that Spotify or Apple decides to put up Tiffany Mason. You do it.
Right.
They can't know until we tell them, which I did today, that that's not the Four Seasons. That's not even the song that they use the name of.
Yeah.
So it'll take me a few days, frustrating to my clients, but it won't be there anymore. And that's not in contracts. And what I'm seeing today in AI, literally today, is if we have hit songs that are in a catalog, whether we own it or not, if we create an AI version of the song or the master, even though it's the original artist, is it covered by the old contract? Is it a new master, or is it a copy of the original? We're fighting through that stuff right now.
Yeah.
When you're working with these artists and you're talking about this such a long time period, these times where you have to look ahead, whether it be 5, 8 years, is there a way that you have to frame things, a difference between patience and procrastination?
Yes, and I have the background and the resume to show artists how it works. So if you thought through the 50 years that Olivia and I worked together from where we were to where we got, I say to artists, that is how your career should go. There's plenty of artists who burn out and don't want to do it anymore. But if you're a pro, and I'm now going to go back to Mark Miller because we all love Sawyer Brown, 40 years out, there's still a plan. It's still Sawyer Brown. There's still new records. And I had breakfast with his daughter last week. We were talking about something. She said the thing that's great about her dad is that nobody recognizes him. So 40 years in his career, he can go, have dinner in a restaurant here in Nashville. He's wearing a baseball cap, just like you, Jay, and nobody knows who he is. And that's great because he loves being Sawyer Brown, but he also loves having a family and a real life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people opt out because you it's really hard to have both.
Yeah.
When you're talking about luck, is there ever a time where luck isn't good?
Depends on how you ask that. I mean, luck isn't good when your band and crew crashes, and luck isn't good when a guy falls out of the rigging and dies, and when you're on a bus in a snowstorm and an 18-wheeler plows into the back. Bad luck in the business side. Well, bad luck in the business side to me is doing business with crooked exploiters of talent or fraudulent exploiters of talent. And if you pay attention and you have a good guide, that isn't going to happen. The one exploiter of talent who I criticize the most probably in the book is Neil Bogart with Donna Summer. I mean, we had knockdown dragouts, Neil Bogart and I didn't have respect for his for his approach to Donna and the business. So I don't know. It's not so much bad luck as just being prepared always for what might go wrong. And that's really one of the things you learn in law school. If you learn anything in law school, it's that we should be prepared for the worst of circumstances and not always just the best.
Which makes sense. Can you go back to that relationship and tell me what it was, that first sign where you thought this isn't going to be a positive relationship?
Well, in that situation, I'm talking about Donna Summer. And by the way, her dad was a butcher also. So we hit it off from the very beginning. Dad was a butcher in Boston. Donna was a warm, wonderful person, and she was one of the biggest artists in the world at that time, and if not the biggest. And her deal wasn't good. If you think back, Donna wasn't discovered in America. She got into play hair in Germany and signed with a German company. So I went to see Neil Bogart, who was the U.S. distributor of the German records for Donna, and walked into his office and on Donna's behalf. And he was just arrogant, putting Donna down. She's not that great. She wouldn't be anything without me.
Wow.
Not going to do that. I've been more specific with you, Tiffany and Jay, than anybody in terms of these stories. And it's not, I'm not afraid of telling the truth.
Yeah. I do love that, like, it just seems like you're just such a genuinely good guy. And so, I think that you're kind of explaining a little bit of like karma, like who you surround yourself is kind of what comes back to you, and what you put out is what comes back to you as well. I guess I have two questions for you. The first one is crazy lucky. Are you talking about your crazy lucky or your clients were crazy lucky?
Both, particularly both.
Okay.
I've had a great career, which I think Jay had asked me earlier. It's a lot of luck, but obviously I worked hard to get there, and I've dedicated my life to it. But artists, there are so many talented artists in this country and in the world. I'm talking about writers and singers, right? And we're talking about focusing on music. There are 1,000 of the most talented musicians and singers in the world in Nashville, Tennessee. That doesn't really move the needle as much as having that and being in the right place at the right time, which is the luck part. And the part that I stress about myself, to be able to meet and represent Olivia and Reba and Mark Miller or Randy Travis and Travis Tritt. This is just always funny to me. In my country music chops, all of it came from two people. Conway Twitty, who introduced me to Randy Travis and many others, and Jimmy Bowen, who introduced me to Reba and many others. And how lucky is it that I worked with Jimmy Bowen and Conway Twitty? And you'd ask me, I think it was Jay, about Olivia referring clients to me. Conway Twitty sent everybody. He's like, everybody, you got to get John Mason. He's great. And that was pretty crazy lucky for me, because Conway, how would you think about Conway, right? He's from Arkansas and kind of a country guy, but his big giant hit that launched him was "It's Only Make Believe." Mm-hmm. But that funny, I don't even remember how he described that voice. He's singing fun stuff. The fun part is that there is a lot of luck.
You mentioned Jimmy Bowen. His camp, especially back in the day, was amazing. The artists he's worked with, the team of people that he's surrounded himself with, from the engineers and everybody else, the musicians.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was just an amazing team. What was that relationship like?
So Jimmy Bowen, in the earlier part of my book, and this is crazy lucky too, in the right place at the right time. Long story, as short as I can get it. I grew up in North Hollywood, and Mike Curb and I played in bands together. The Mike Curb Congregation or the Marquettes, whatever one, he'd play the keyboards and me the guitar. When I was in my seventh year of college, law school, third year up at UC Berkeley, I was reading in the San Francisco newspaper about this young guy who just sold his company for $2 million to MGM, Mike Curb, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm finally gonna get a break because this guy I know is the president of the record company. And I got back down to LA a couple months later, and I called Mike, and he said, oh man, sorry to tell you, John, they fired me. I'm not the president anymore, but you should call. His name was Steve Knapp, a lawyer there that I hired because he may need help. He actually did, and my job at MGM Records was to get them out of every contract that Mike did, including with Sammy Davis Jr. and the Osmonds. It's crazy. But I found in that time, if I stayed in my little hole-in-the-wall office that didn't have any windows and nobody knew I was there, I wasn't going to lose my job.
Sure.
And I'm seeing this rotating group of presidents that were all from foreign countries. It was called Polygram that owned it. I finally saw a memo that said, we have a new president. He's coming next Tuesday, and his name is Jimmy Bowen. And I thought, I'm going to go out. He was coming up to MGM Records on Sunset Boulevard in L.A., and I thought, I'm going to sit in the lobby, and I'm going to meet this guy from day one because we're finally going to have an American talented guy. He'd already produced Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. So he came in a big Mercedes-Benz limousine. This is 72. And I was sitting in the lobby, and then I was 24. And I said, Mr. Bowen, I'm John Mason. I'm a contract lawyer here. I'd love to just get a chance to talk to you. He said, all right, kid, come up at 1 o'clock. And got in the office. He said, what do you want to know? I said, how come you came to work in a Mercedes limousine? I have never seen that before. My dad's a butcher. And he just laughed. And he said, I had so many drunk driving tickets. I had to get a car and drive her as part of my contract. And then 5 minutes later, he said, you're going to be my lawyer. And I didn't even go up there to try to be his lawyer. I just didn't want to get fired. So from that day to this day, Bowen has been my client, and I love the guy. Even now this week, we are working on I am for him, continuing royalties from Dean Martin. Everybody loves somebody. I mean, it's lucky, right? That I was there that day that Jim Bowen walked in.
Yes. Well, it's a testament to your personality. I mean, you got that connection based on your relationship, just how you said you like to get your clients now, is based on a relationship, a gut feeling, and intuition. And so he did the same thing. So maybe you just saw that as an example and kind of took that lead.
I just figured out by then you have to take advantage of an opportunity. And he was coming in the door, and I was made it my point to go sit in front of him.
Made your own luck.
Yeah, well, in that way, yeah. But I was there, right place, right time. In all the decades, 2 decades, I should say, that Bowen ran every company in Nashville, he had a reputation for firing everybody the first day and then asking them to apply for their job if they wanted to stay. And I survived all of that, and I'm still here.
Wow. Wow.
You also mentioned Mike Curb.
Well, Mike and I are still close friends. And we have been friends, I can literally say, for 70 years. And that's for me, just one of the most wonderful things I can say about somebody. And we are as close today as we ever have been. And
so did you have a relationship with him business-wise with his label?
Yes. I would say I've been a consigliere and a lawyer who can help Mike get through concepts and ideas. I mean, it's all him. Mike's done it all, but how they structure. I don't represent the company against artists because I don't do that, but how they build and how they develop is definitely something that I still do.
he's got some great artists over there. I mean, it's impressive to see what he's done. And now you drive through Nashville and you see his name on every building around.
I know.
He's pretty impressive within himself as well.
Yes.
All right. So if somebody reads your book today, what's the one thing you hope they take from your book?
Anyone can be successful in whatever they want to do if they dedicate themselves to build around the core. You still have to have the talent to get there and the perseverance to stay with it, and especially here in Nashville where everybody gets rejected all the time. All the people that I talk about in the book, from me to Olivia Newton-John and Randy Travis, Randy's one of the best examples of somebody that got rejected by everybody but has a golden voice. And his then manager, Lib Hatcher, kept knocking on the door. Go to the Gloria Estefan chapter and read about when we met in the garage in Miami with no air conditioning and the family working there, to writing, working, go to the bus, accident. She's paralyzed effectively for 2 years, comes out and writes Coming Out of the Dark. It's inspiration. That's really what I want people to finish that book and go, that was awesome. I'm inspired by Quincy Jones, and I'm inspired by Michael Jackson. I didn't trash Michael Jackson in the book. He is a super talented guy that chose a path and walked that path. So, long answer to your question. That's what I hope people take away from Crazy Lucky.
All right, sir. Well, we do this thing here we call Unsung Heroes, where we take a moment to shine the light on somebody who's worked behind the scenes or somebody who may have supported you along the way. Do you have anybody that you'd like to shine a little light on?
Jimmy Bowen. In addition to Conway Twitty and Reba, he just stood by me, and that's why we're together still, 54 years now. But I said it about Conway, and when we're in country music, those guys made the music of the 80s and 90s. And Tony Brown, client friend who lives here, that produced Reba and George Strait. Mm-hmm. I have more people than you have time to listen to who've helped and guided my career.
Well, I think that's a good note for us to pause here. All right, well, we've done it. We've reached the top of the hour, which does mean we've reached the end of the show. And if you've enjoyed the show, well, tell a friend. And Miss Tiffany?
If you have not, tell two.
If you have not, tell two. You can reach out to both of us. Hell, you can reach out to all three of us over at jfranzi.com. We will be happy to keep this conversation and any other going. Sir, we cannot thank you enough for being here tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. We would like to leave the final words to you.
I love talking to you guys. I love the stories. I love the people that we're talking about. And obviously you do too. And that makes it special to talk about them.
Yeah.
All right, folks. On that note, have a good night.
Thanks for listening to The Jay Franzi Show. Make sure you visit us at jfranzi.com. Follow, connect, and say hello. This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.